The crisis between Iran and Saudi Arabia, ignited by the execution of a prominent Shiite cleric by the Sunni kingdom, has spread rapidly throughout the Middle East and Africa as Bahrain, Kuwait, and Sudan, all close allies of Riyadh, announced the severing of ties with Iran. After a mob set fire to the Saudi embassy in Tehran, another Saudi ally, the UAE, downgraded its diplomatic team in the Islamic Republic. On the other side, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said yesterday that one does not respond to critics by cutting off their heads and that Saudi cannot hide behind its crime by severing ties. In an additional show of force, Tehran unveiled a new underground missile depot showing Imam Precision guided missiles in store, which the United States says can carry a nuclear warhead. In the meantime, in Yemen, where the sides are holding a proxy war of sorts, things are only heating up after weeks of a relative lull. Large airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition targeted military position linked to Yemen-Iranian-backed Houthis in the capital Sana'a, and the Shiite militia launched rockets at the city of Marib. According to the UN, some 2,800 civilians have lost their lives since March of last year. Let's take a look at the following report, break it down from there.
The heat is intensifying in the latest Middle Eastern standoff between Iran on the one side and Saudi Arabia and its Sunni allies on the other, and the international community wants to be the firefighter. The Gulf Cooperation Council announced Tuesday it will hold a, quote, extraordinary meeting in Riyadh this Saturday to discuss the rising tensions with Iran and its repercussions. Until then, world powers are concerned the confrontation will harm the Syrian peace efforts, and the United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, is scheduled to arrive in Saudi Arabia and Iran later on this week to ensure this does not happen.
During his visits, the Special Envoy will assess the implications of the recent developments between Saudi Arabia and Iran on the momentum of the Vienna process for Syria. Mr. de Mistura believes that the crisis in Saudi-Iranian relations is a very worrisome development, and he stresses the need to ensure that it does not cause a chain of adverse consequences in the region.
But while neither side is willing to be the one to sabotage the peace efforts, when it comes to mutual public insults, both Riyadh and Tehran spare no words.
The Iranians, even before the break of diplomatic relations, have not been very supportive, have not been very positive. And as such, I don't think that the break in relations is going to dissuade them from such behavior.
For more than 30 years after the Islamic Revolution in Iran, many great powers have severed ties with Iran. Now Saudi Arabia, concerning that apparently they are taking measures based on a set of immature policies and inexperience, they will be affected by loss.
As expected, the head-to-head row between the two regional superpowers is forcing other countries to take a stand and choose a camp. On Tuesday, Kuwait joined a number of Arab countries siding with Riyadh, announcing it would recall its ambassador to Tehran.
In the beginning of the session, the Council ministers decided to cut ties with Iran. It mandated the Foreign Ministry to undertake necessary actions. The Council also condemned Iranian statements and involvement in internal and sovereign affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
On Monday, Bahrain and Sudan said they would cut diplomatic ties with the Islamic Republic, and the United Arab Emirates declared it would downgrade its ties to the level of the Sharjah affair. The Iranians and Saudis have never seen things eye to eye, but if their harsh spat continues, the opposing giants are likely to plunge the entire region into bedlam.
So how will this new crisis influence the already overheated region? To help make sense of that, I'm joined in studio by I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Good morning to you. Before, though, let's go straight to Aden in Yemen, a city which suffered violent clashes earlier this week, and also the place in the region where Saudi Arabia and Iran are actually battling it out on the ground. We're joined by journalist Nisma Mansour. Nisma, good morning to you. Over the course of the last, I would say, several days since this tension between Saudi and Iran started again, what are we seeing in Yemen? What is the situation in Yemen on the ground?
Situation in Yemen is just the same. Fightings are still going on. Airstrikes in the same rhythm. The blockade inside the government until now is still going on. So the tension between Saudi Arabia and Iran has started since the Yemeni war, but it was not announced. But now it has been by what happened in these couple of days.
This was sadly a bad connection, but what we glean from it, obviously in the proxy war that is Iran and Syria, Yemen is the one suffering. I want to thank you for joining us. Ali, with me in studio. You know, my biggest fear when this began, I think the biggest fear of everybody in the region is, you know, how far will this escalate? When we're looking at this tension right now and the Gulf states basically picking a side, are we looking at further escalation where Saudi and Iran, in your mind, are going to take it even further with fights between each other, or just the proxy wars?
Yeah, we have next week a meeting of the Arab League that will define how further will go this crisis and how far, and whether the Arab world with its Sunnite majority will fully back Saudi Arabia in its tension, in its escalation with Iran. And I think that the two sides have enough cards to deter each other. The Saudis have cards they can use inside Iran and vice versa. The eastern parts of the Saudi kingdom, rich of oil, with a majority of Shiite population, where we are seeing already some clashes between the local residents and the Saudi security forces. And this internal cards, this mutual cards that every country can use against the other, is for the moment restraining both of them to escalate the situation, because I think their big fear is that this proxy war will not be reduced to be a proxy war, and it can be enlarged inside their territories, inside Iran and inside Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, which I think is the fear actually that everybody living in the region, most likely in the world, is afraid of. Joining us also now via Skype from Cairo is Middle East analyst for I-24 News, Jacob Rochester. Jake, good morning to you. At the end of the day, when we're looking at what's going on right now between Iran and Saudi Arabia, is it really just about the Shia cleric that was executed in Saudi?
Of course not. First of all, the Shia cleric was one of 4 Shia executed on general terrorism charges. There were another 47 people.
I think we have lost the connection there, but when we're looking at, the same question, is it just the Shia cleric execution, or are bigger things at play?
No, it's about leading the Muslim world, and it has, of course, a sectarian background. I think that what Ali said in her report, that the Saudis and even the Iranian are expecting to see who is in their camp, and we had Jack from Cairo. Egypt, that in the recent month tried to have a neutral position regarding the crisis in Syria, in Yemen, elsewhere. In the last days, we are seeing Egypt, the biggest Arab country, fully supporting Saudi Arabia in its crisis with Iran, although it wants to keep some good relations with Iran, which means that the Saudi steps succeeded to push the Arab world, to the Arab countries,
to somehow
decide
unite against Iran
and to choose their camp. Because we saw in the Syrian crisis, Yael, the Egyptian had a neutral position. The Emirates, afraid of the jihadist groups, started backing even the regime. Kuwait, according to the Saudis, were suspected to have some neutral pro-Saudi, but towards neutrality in this crisis. And this step of Saudi Arabia obliged every one of these countries to pick a side.
And that's what they have been doing. It's something I think that we'll be dealing with throughout the week, if not throughout the remaining year. Ali, I want to thank you for joining me this morning.